against Alabama. Ole Miss comes up this Saturday, 5:30 with our CHI St. Joseph pregame show. 6:30 will be the kick for the Aggies and Ole Miss. Glad that you're with us all along the network. Please keep checking in on Facebook Live. And I always like to get your thoughts of the previous Saturday, that game against Alabama.
Well, we played a very good team that, and at times played very well. I mean, competed in the game. Had it was a two-score game going through the fourth quarter, and we had the ball, and unfortunately got a penalty there, and pushed the drive back, and they scored and got. But kids played well, got out of the blocks very well. Had a great 17-play drive to open up the game. Had 4 drives of over 70 yards in the game for touchdowns and 8 plays or more. So got improved in that realm. Defensively, played some solid football. Did a good job in the run game. We had to do a better job getting off the field in third down, and we gave up some special teams things and got to tackle a little better in space. But they're a good football team, and they exploit everything you do when you slip, and not enough consistency, but a very, very competitive, tough, hard, physical football game on both sides.
Jimbo, you got the ball first, and if your team was ever wondering about confidence, that was as confident, I think, a drive that they had to open up that game. That was impressive.
It was. I mean, we executed, and they were ready to play, and we knew it. And the guys, like I said, we've improved. It just, you got to, against them, you got to keep scoring points because they're so dynamic on the offensive side of the ball, but they're really good on the defensive side. I mean, they got a lot of guys will be drafted there too, but at the same time, you got to keep playing against those teams, and you got to play all 3 phases.
You talk about is there a difference between tackling, Jimbo, and getting a guy on the ground? Because you used that phrase a lot on Monday during the media availability. You have to get Alabama on the ground, and you said they are very tough to put on.
Oh, in space, but anybody is. You got to tackle. I mean, tackling and being physical, but you got to get guys to the ground. However, you got to get them, and you got to play with leverage. You got to leverage the football, know where your help is, and close space on guys before they can create space, and how you cover and how you fit things. And any good player, I don't care, especially when you're playing in this league and the people we play and the competition we play, that when you give good skill players space, they're hard to get on the ground, and that's where recruiting kicks in.
Yeah,
those great recruits who create that and do that, but they do a good job.
Once again, the Aggies faced with a 2-minute drill before the half, and Jimbo, you executed once again and got points.
We do. We always take a lot of pride in our 2-minute stuff. We do a really good job in that, and that's last 2 games been able to score there and got some points on the board, got back in the game, and in a big drive along, about a 70-yard drive there that was really good.
And Seth knocked it right through again. When you have someone like that who can be dependable, that's so huge.
It does. You got to be able to hit the kicks and do the things. Hopefully, wish we'd had about 10 more seconds. We had one more shot at the end zone, but we had some opportunities there, but Seth had 2 really good kicks in that game.
We will have more about that game. We will preview Ole Miss. We have your questions as well. We want to tell you that the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show is brought to you by Capital Farm Credit. Capital Farm Credit, together we're better. We will come back to Rudy's, 504 Harvey Road here in College Station for the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show. It's presented by Capital Farm Credit. This is Aggie Football from Learfield IMG College. AT&T is a proud partner of Texas A&M Athletics. More for your thing, that's our thing. We continue with the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show. It's presented by Capital Farm Credit. We are at Rudy's, 504 Harvey Road, along with the head coach of the Fighting Texas Ag. Normally I go to questions later, but because the segue works with what we talked about, Mike asks, the first drive was textbook football. How does having pulled that off against Alabama help the team learn to do it every possession?
Well, it does. I mean, it allows you know you can do it. Now, to be able to do it every possession, you have to practice to do it. And what I'm saying, the mindset to stay focused and have concentration levels at that. And we had, like I said, we had three other drives that were 8 or more plays and over 70 yards. So there were some really good ones in there. And so it allows you to know that, when I do things right, I can do this against as good a people as there is in this country and that are playing. So it is a great asset as far as knowing you can do it, and I just got to get them to do it more often.
I always ask you this over the course of our show. How has practice been? How is practice this week?
Practice this week is one of the better weeks, I think. We improved. I think we build on the confidence, at least our execution, our tempo of practice, getting in and out of things, reads. Not as many repeats in practice, mistakes, mental mistakes. You have a few here and there with some of the younger guys, but you keep they're getting less and less each week.
When you preach tempo, Jimbo, is that always about the opponent and what Ole Miss will do, or is it about you being able to get?
No, it's our tempo.
To get those plays
play at our guys. Yeah, to get our plays, and you got to play at your tempo. You got to dictate your pace of play. I mean, and how you want to play and the way you want to do things, and creating that situation for that.
And the moment when you get towards the latter part of that practice, period number 14, right? You want to see that execution, because what you do when you're tired, what you do in that 58th, 59th, 60th minute, right, in a game really can determine wins and losses.
Well, when you play in this league, it's always going that way. When you play in this league, how many games go to the end? How many games this year? I mean, they all do. And then in the past, last year, the overtime games. Listen, you don't win because you want to. You win because you train to, and you practice that way, and you create that habit, and you're able to do it in practice when you're tired. Because I always say this, and it's what young guys have to experience sometimes to believe. Some of them don't. They learn it. But, when pressure comes, your habits come straight to the surface. What you do daily and how you practice. It becomes reactionary. You're not thinking and thinking I'm going to do it. No, you're reacting. Football and sports and all that's a reactionary deal, and it reveals what you've done and how you've done it.
A couple of freshmen I'd like to ask you about. Damani Richardson, huge interception. His first, probably not going to be his only interception in his career, but I remember you saying this is a young man we just could not keep off the field, and it just seems like he gets better and better. My partner, the old safety, the All-American, is just so impressed with Damani.
Well, yeah, because he just he has the size, speed, and the credentials as that goes, but he has very good instincts, covers such an amazing amount of ground. He can really track things, see things, can judge the football. Tackle, he's learning to be a better tackler now, and learning to close. He always will hit you and be physical, but learning how to close space and know where his help is and the things he has to do to use. Because great safeties and all great football players, they learn to use the people around them about what's going on and how to limit guys' space on the other side, and how to use where my help is here, so I can be fast here, I can be slow here. And he understands that, and he just keeps growing in what we're trying to do and gets better and better. And a guy whose attitude is always outstanding and works his tail off.
Coach, he's not afraid to ask Mike Elko a question. He's not afraid to ask Keldrick Carper a question. To me, that tells me that he wants to learn, and you always say when you have that within you to get better, he seems like he has that attribute.
He does, but he's comfortable in his own skin. He knows he can play, knows what he does. He's a confident kid, not an arrogant kid, but he also knows that he has a lot to learn, and he wants to gain as much information from everybody around him as he can. And he is totally all in and trying to be a great football player.
You like players who have that confidence bordering on arrogance, don't you?
Well, you do. If you don't believe you can do it, nobody. I mean, listen, everybody in this world is a doubter. Everybody tells you what you can't do. Nobody tells you what you can do, and you have to believe it yourself. I mean, that's the nature of this world. I mean, they all say, "Well, maybe he can do it. Let's see if he can do it." And then if he doesn't, well, he can't do this. He can't. No, you can't. You got to believe in yourself, and you have to have that self-confidence. And listen. Players know if they can play. Deep down, you can say it all you want. They know. They know. The coaches know. They know. And the guys that do it, and he definitely does know.
Much more of the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show presented by Capital Farm Credit to come. Want to remind you that football and barbecue lovers know the perfect brisket needs the right wood. Rudy's smokes all their meats using their delicious signature rubs in 100% oak-fired pits. Get your real Texas barbecue fix today at Rudy's or on the web at rudys.com. Come on back to Rudy's, 504 Harvey Road here in College Station for the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show. It's presented by Capital Farm Credit. This is Aggie Football from Learfield IMG College. Aggies Can will once again take place on November 2nd at the UTSA football game. All fans who donate a canned good or monetary donation will receive a free coupon, free Whataburger while supplies last. Thanks to KBTX and Whataburger for their support of Aggies Can. We continue with the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show. It's presented by Capital Farm Credit. We are at Rudy's, 504 Harvey Road. And continuing with the head coach, a phrase that you used Monday, used it again at practice, saw the wood. I'm loving this phrase. If it sounds very familiar to something coming from the Spurs organization, and Greg Popovich always talked about pounding the rock.
Exactly.
We talking about the same things?
Saw on the wood, keep chopping. I mean, you got to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, it may not look like you're going to get to the end of it. Doesn't matter. You got to do the work. You got to get there. So you got to put the work in. You got to keep chopping. You got to keep grinding. You got to keep pushing, and it's going to get there. And in the meantime, you'll develop work ethic, habits, and the right thing that goes with it. There's no easy way to get there.
This is young Jimbo being told by his dad all over again, isn't it?
Oh, it is. I mean, you got to. And listen, there's going to be failures. There's going to be frustrations. Doesn't matter. You got it. You got to keep going. And frustration and not executing are temporary problems. You're to overcome them. You got to keep chopping to overcome them and make the permanent solution when you fix them.
The easiest thing to do is to put that hatchet down and walk away.
Oh, it is.
You'll never learn about yourself, will you?
You don't see the end. You don't see this. You're not going to. That's what life is, and that's what ball is, and that's what learning is, and that's what building a program is. That's what putting all these things in place is, and that's why you do it the right way, put the foundation in place, and the kids understand it. And also, when you work so hard for something, that's why it makes it, when you get there and you understand how to do it, it makes it so hard to give up and makes you grind through those times.
Right. That's the reward.
It is, no doubt. There's no easy way to have success. It's not going to happen. If it does, and it happens real easy, you better look around because it's going to go away real fast.
Okay, a word that you used at practice, if you don't mind me asking you this, that you're working with the offense, and you told one of the receivers you need to give Kellen a trigger to where he throws the ball. You used that a couple of times.
You do. You read body language. So you got to read the angles. You got to read the trigger. You got to read when a guy is starting. You see as he's going into his cut, when he sinks that weight, that triggers that ball, and it gives him the direction. That's the plant. That's where the thing originates from. So he knows the angles in which you're coming based off how the defender is, or based on how we practiced it, or based, however he's being coached. And those triggers and those points allow the quarterback to play faster. Like a lot of people say, boy, the ball's late. Well, a lot of times a receiver doesn't trigger or set his mark, or he does too many steps, or he does too many things. He doesn't set the timing of it that allows that. Or sometimes the quarterback's late. But when you do it over and over and you start to read that, that's what they talk about. Go out and throw on air. Why would you go out and throw on air? Why do you go out and shoot foul shots? Why do you go out and shoot basketball by yourself? You got to learn to read body language, angles, how fast he can get out of that cut, how fast he can get out of that cut, all those little individual things. But when you trigger and you set that mark and you understand it, and it tells him where his landmark is and how he's got to throw the football.
That's when we talk about where you have that communication, you have that rhythm, you're in tune.
You are.
And
you're seeing as one. You're not
that.
thinking. You're knowing. You're hitting that step. You know what he's going to do. You're trusting what he's going to do because he's done it so many times. And that's why people say, what guy plays him. And that's why coaches hate for guys to miss practice. I don't care what you say, guy. Well, he'll be ready for the game. Well, that's good, but for 4 days he hasn't done anything, and I've lost that ability. That's 4 more days I could have read his body. That's 4 more days I could have read that route. That's 4 more days I could have done that. It's 4 more days he could understand how to catch the ball, run the route. Versus, even when you miss practice, and certain guys, and that's part of ball. But that's why you hate for guys to miss practice, and all that really matters when you get right down to the game.
You also told a receiver, don't catch the ball pretty.
Yeah,
I just had to chuckle.
Well, they all want to catch it, look at it, pause. You got to touch it, catch it, and squeeze it. You know what I mean? You got to attack it. You got to attack the football. You got to put your nose on the football. What I mean by when you put your nose on that, your eyes are going to follow. You put your eyes right on the tip of the ball. You run through it. You get it tucked away in a good position, and that ball's in the air. It's like a rebound. You go get it. You put your body in position to do it and attack that football, and don't be pretty about it. Be physical and nasty with it.
And I think we talked about this before. Jamon was saying you catch the ball with your eyes.
No doubt. One of everybody say, what's the greatest trait? His speed, his change of direction, his size, his hands. Okay, put a blindfold on and send me balls he catches. Yep. You can jump, run, do all that stuff. You put a blindfold on, you're not going to catch football. Right. So you have to track it with your eyes. You have to find it with your eyes. And people don't realize the way the head turns to the football affects how you run routes. People don't understand it. When the head turns too far, it pulls the shoulder. That slows you down. It changes the angle. When a quarterback overthrows a guy by a step, and you say, man, he overthrew him. Go watch sometimes. He'll stick. If that guy's head turns and his front shoulder turns, it usually slows him down a half to step. And you don't understand. That's why you never look back for a ball. You look up.
Gotcha.
On a deep ball. Any ball that has air on it, you never look back. You look up to find it because your shoulders stay on the run and you run through it. Just like on a 100-yard dash. You'll never see a guy run a 100-yard dash like this, do you? I mean, he's got to run on the angle, which he's got to find. Now, if the ball's there, he's got to look up and find it and then adjust. But now, underneath routes, when you're snapping and turning, you're getting your shoulders back. But your shoulders, when they get turned in an angle like that, when you're running on vertical routes or corner routes or things like that, it slows you down. And that's what you're trying to trigger with those and build that timing and rhythm with all the guys around here. And if you have guys who are in and out of practice all the time, it's hard to develop that continuity.
That half second can be the difference between a
half
catch.
An inch. Half an inch. Half a second, half an inch, an inch. I mean, those balls that hit there to there to there, you know, and also those guys getting used to can make those contested catches like that.
And that's why you preach that consistent message of inches and crumbs, right?
It is. I mean, an inch to lose a game could be this to this. A guy's head be running here to catch it, or he looks back and the ball goes off his fingertip. I mean, that's how close it is. People say, it is. But you got to learn to do it over and over and over and over. And you got the physical skills to do it, the mental skills to do it, and also the psychological skills to do it.
That belief.
Exactly right.
I have that confidence. He's the head coach of the Fighting Texas Aggies. That's Jimbo Fisher, and we continue with the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show. It's presented by Capital Farm Credit. This is Aggie Football from Learfield IMG College. Texas Farm Bureau Insurance wants to give you a VIP Aggie basketball fan experience this year. Go to 12thman.com/maroon contest and register. One winner and a guest will receive game tickets, a VIP tour of Reed Arena, and will be recognized on the video board during the game. Register today at 12thman.com/maroon contest. Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, proud partner of Texas A&M Athletics. We continue with the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show. It's presented by Capital Farm Credit. I wanted to play something for everyone before we get back to this. It was last year's game, the Aggies and Ole Miss. Here's a highlight from that game. I'll explain after. So the Aggies have to get into Ole Miss territory and gain the 43-yard line. 2 wide receivers to the right, Buckley slot, Davis far right, Osmond to the left. 5 catches in this game after returning from injury. Mond straight back, throws. He's got Sternberger complete up the left sideline, 20-yard line inside the 20 to the 19 for Jace Sternberger, 32-yard completion.
Ole Miss brought a corner blitz from Kellen Mond's right. Good job by the right tackle to pick up that blitz, give him time to throw this deep out route to Sternberger and pick up the first down there at the 20-yard line.
Dave, Kellen had some pressure right in his face. He had to be patient back there and delivered a strike to Jace. I play that not because I want to hear my voice, although I love hearing me.
That was a huge third down conversion.
You said during Coach's night you thought that was a turning point last year.
It was making that play because he had the fumble before, then we had a trick play, and they went over to safety, went over the top, and picked the ball off down the right sideline on the series before, and that was about a 3rd and 10, and it was a Seattle play, and he had verticals, and he bent it and followed, and I mean he was open by about 1.5 inches, and he stuck it on that side and went down the sideline. We went in and then hit a run, and then he actually threw a touchdown right in the corner to Courtney.
Yep.
On the right-hand corner,
yep.
About the 10-yard line, and tied it up and got our confidence going and got going. That was a huge third down conversion after 2 adverse situations that had put them ahead. We come back, and I thought that was really a turning point for him, and all of a sudden we started really playing good football after that. And just, again, just kept chopping. Just kept doing the basic things, didn't give up, didn't get frustrated. I mean, your disappointment is not frustration, and you can be frustrated, but you can't let it affect you. And you gotta let. That's part of ball. There's going to be ups and downs. Like I say, they're on scholarship too, and they make plays. And there's always those moments that happen. And as we were talking about some of those today, and I thought of another one after. It was kind of like this year right now, and in the season when I was at LSU, some different times like that. You hit those moments, and those kids just keep sawing, just keep doing the right things. And when you keep doing the right things, the results in the process come together. That to me showed the growth of Kellen. Big time. He's not even the same player now that he was then. No, he isn't. And you keep growing and you develop from those situations. And you're going to be listen, I don't care if you're an athlete, you're a coach, you're in business, whatever you do, there's going to be adversity that comes in whatever your professional career is. And can I do it? Can I not do it? Bosses doubt me. This guy's doubt me. People are doubt me. This is happening. And you just keep going. And everybody, I don't care what. Very few guys ever walk in and are just super talented. It never happens. I mean, it happens to everybody. You got to prove yourself, and there's no easy way to be good in sports, and that was a huge moment for Kellen. Don't we all want to be better people tomorrow than we were today? Oh, right? Exactly. You're always growing, aren't you? Exactly. You're always growing. I mean, you can't go backwards, and you got to keep pushing. Kellen, once again, those design runs, he's one of your best running backs. He is. There, some were designed, some weren't, but he did. He did a real nice job picking and choosing and making the decisions to check into them or not. Some of them are checked into, some are not, just getting the right looks. And we give that we'll call something for somebody else or pass, and if they double, and then getting to where the weakness of the defense is, and he's doing a really good job. Can you teach competitiveness? Because that's what he has, doesn't he? Well, you can teach it to a point, and it's hard to be around certain people that if you don't have it. But there's certain levels of competitiveness. You either, it's I'm always saying, dog don't bite when he's a pup, dog don't bite when he's a dog. You can teach them they might wrestle and bite you once or twice, but certain guys have that it factor that love to compete and love the adversity of it and look forward to it, whether you've had failure or success. Even though you've had failure, you don't want to do it, but the instinct in you can't go away. You got to go find it, and then he has a lot of that in him. He's not afraid now to say reload in practice, but he's never been afraid to congratulate whether it's the line or someone who's made a catch. He's always been right there. He's very he deflects a lot of things, even when he does a lot. Even he'll take blame, and which all good leaders do. I mean, good leaders understand that, and those troops understand that, because you don't want to throw those guys under the bus, and we're all in the same thing together. But he understands that. He does a really good job with that. He's the head coach of the Fighting Texas Aggies, Jimbo Fisher. We'll continue with the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show. It's presented by Capital Farm Credit. We're at Rudy's, 504 Harvey Road. Here in College Station, stay with us. This is Aggie Football from Learfield, IMG College.
The Jimbo Fisher Radio Show, presented by Capital Farm Credit, rolls on from Rudy's, 504 Harvey Road here in College Station. It's also brought to you by Bud Light, proud partner of Texas A&M Athletics, reminding you to enjoy responsibly. Along with the head coach of the Fighting Texas Aggies, Jimbo Fisher, John Markland has checked in on Facebook from California. John was here last week, had a chance to meet Coach, meet me. He was here last week. He attended the Alabama game. He's checked in on Facebook Live. Hello, John. Thank you for doing that, as they've checked in the entire time. I love that. That's one of the best things, is for them to be able to do that. Coach, it's question time.
All right,
here we go. Ian's up first. Ian Curtis, how much does a team's conference affect a team's playing style?
Oh, huge. It really does, because you can play a certain style, but your style has to be effective against the opponents in which you have. And by their style, I mean, you want to put your will upon them. There's certain things, but there may be certain things in which they have certain sets of skill levels, that whether it's skill guys or big guys or defensive linemen, that you have to handle to be able to compete against. So your recruiting style also has to do with the people which you face. And you look in the NFL, by conferences, and you heard old Bill Parcells say that all the time. I have to learn to beat these guys. So my team has to be designed to be able to beat that team. Mm-hmm. Back when Joe Gibbs, when they used to go against Lawrence Taylor, mm-hmm. He was the one that divided the two tight ends and the wing, the H back and all that stuff, because Lawrence Taylor was having free runs off the edge. I mean, when certain people have certain good types of players, you have to be able to defend or go on offense against them or defend against them. You have to have certain styles of play, so that will affect the kind of guys you recruit and the style of ball you play.
Now, you come from the ACC in Florida State, but you have the SEC lineage as well, being at LSU, so you know what you need.
And when I was in the ACC, I built our team in regard to play that, because at that time, until we broke that string, the SEC had won 7 straight national titles. And when I was at Florida State, we were the one who broke the string in 2013. And then Ohio State and Clemson got in on it too, but we were the one that broke it. But there was a certain way they played. Alabama and those guys played, so we had to have a certain physicality, size, speed, all those different things. And my lineage came from there, mm-hmm. but also, that's where our goal wasn't just to win our conference, it was to win that. So we had to design that team, and it took it took us a few years to get the right kind of guys and the right kind of players, the size, speed, in which we did, and then we were able to compete and win the championship. Then be in that hunt every year.
You almost build it for the playoffs as opposed to just the conference.
Oh, you do. And you said this: if you can win the playoffs, you can definitely win your conference. So I mean, and that's the way we looked at it, and that's how we did it. And we knew, because we just didn't want to just win those league titles. We wanted to be able to get there and win it, or compete with everybody, which we did. Because actually, during our time in that league, I think we were 11 or 12-2 against the SEC.
Mm-hmm. Steve wants to know, who's been the most improved player on offense and defense?
Great question. You got so many young guys who have really jumped and improved. It's hard, like you were talking about Damani and some of those guys. Mm-hmm. But, I think Buddy Johnson's really done a really nice job inside, just developing to be an inside backer. Buddy's playing really, really good football. In that regard, I think another guy who's taken huge steps, Miles Jones, has taken a lot of huge steps in how he's played, and some of those guys, and some of our young guys on offense have to look. I'm trying to think. Jamon has really been Mr. Consistent for us on offense. Kellen has done a tremendous amount of things on there. Some of those young, of course, Kenyon up front. Yeah. I mean, you say that the other linemen have, but you threw him in there as a freshman in the first games, and how he keeps evolving. But there's a few guys that have, and all of them are trying to get better each and every week.
Steve has been busting me this entire year, okay? So you can answer or not. Here's the question. Do you believe there's a conspiracy against the rest of the SEC that when you play Alabama, you won't get any calls, no matter how obvious there should be a flag?
They say it about New England in the NFL. They say it about you say it about the Lakers. You say it about the Bulls and Jordan. I mean, it tends to go that way, because it's obvious, because there's not, when you play those teams that are right now are winning at a high level, there's certain breaks in the game or certain points that you got to have those things. It just seems like they always find a way to make it go their way, and it's so obvious. I mean, no, I don't think that. I really don't think that. It's just that everybody knows the margin for error is so small when you play good people. Those things get exploited more because if a call is missed or something, well, that's got to be a conspiracy. We can't give them any other advantage, and you don't. You give good teams a couple things, but I definitely do not think there's a conspiracy theory to do that.
Coach, I can't wait till everybody's mad at us.
Yeah, exactly right. Hey, you know what's funny? They used to be saying that when I was in the ACC. They said about everything we got at Florida State. Exactly right. And we're going, like I say, that's part of this, and we're going to get to that place. And that's what good teams do. The respect you have, and when people are talking like that about you, you're winning, and that's our goal to get there, and we're going to get there. We are. We're going to get there, and we're in the process of doing it. And like I say, recruiting is going very well. Mm-hmm. Guys are playing hard. They're getting better each and every week, and we're putting the things in place. As I say, the process stays right.
Yep.
The results will come.
Yep.
The results will come.
He's the head coach of the Fighting Texas Aggies. That's Jimbo Fisher, and the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show, presented by Capital Farm Credit, rolls on from Rudy's, 504 Harvey Road here in College Station. Stay with us. This is Aggie Football from Learfield IMG College. Texas A&M Athletics, more for your thing. That's our thing. We continue with the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show. It's presented by Capital Farm Credit. We are at Rudy's, 504 Harvey Road here in College Station as the Aggies get set to take on the Ole Miss Rebels. That will be on Saturday from Oxford. And 5:30 with our CHI St. Joseph's pregame show. 6:30 is the kick, and let's get into Ole Miss. This is a team that, Jimbo, some young quarterbacks, the two really. So let me start between Plumlee, between Coral. Do you prepare for two, or do you prepare for one and the tendencies for both?
No, you prepare for both. You have to, and what they do and how they do it, and you got to have a plan for both guys when they're in the game and make the calls accordingly.
You made a comment that Alabama throws to set up the run. Ole Miss is different from that, aren't they?
Ole Miss runs the football a little more, but they still throw it. I mean, it's everybody has what they want to feature to get to the other part of it, and that's just the way they do it.
Scotty Phillips is one of their running backs. We saw him last year, a very solid running back. One of the experienced players for him, and as I'm looking, boy, Elijah Moore has 44 catches. So obviously they're not entirely running, right? They can get the ball.
Oh, no,
into
they
his
get the ball
hands.
vertical, and he makes big plays, and he can jump and make contested catches. He can run away from it to short catches, to long catches. A really, really good player.
Jerry and Ely is another one. They like to get the ball in his hands, don't they?
Young freshman. We recruited when I was at here and at other school. I've known about him for a long time. He was a dual threat guy. He's as far as a football, baseball guy. He was a two-sport guy that was really supposed to be a high-drafted baseball guy, too, that is a really, really good football player.
This defense likes to come after you, too, doesn't it? Ole
They
Miss
do.
is-
They'll blitz you. They'll okie fronts, three-down fronts, different blitzes, twists, games. I mean, Mike McIntyre's been around, been a great defense coordinator. His dad was a football coach for years and years. He's grown up around it his whole life and a really good coach.
Do you sometimes look at tendencies from those coaches, a Mike McIntyre who's the DC and a Rich Rodriguez who's the OC?
Oh,
there?
yeah, you look at definitely their tendencies and what they do, how they do it, what the formations they do it out, down distances, field positions, hashes. I mean, you name it. I mean, it's broken down in every way possible, and what they like to call it. And you go back to their history too. You even look, research in old books and people and film that we keep a running record on of all of our coordinators. I mean, you always do that. So guys you've crossed paths with and see if they their tendencies are still the same or what goes on.
I was just going to ask you, it's that tendencies. When you know that tendencies, that can give you an advantage.
It does. It can, but you still got to trust your eyes because, like I say, people say, well, Coach, we know your tendencies. I say, that's good. That means two things. One, I believe in something. Two, we're doing something very good. And so if you know them, they know them. So when we break them, we can hurt you. I mean, people say, well, they know what you're doing. You want to be able to. It's a game of execution. You got to window dress it. You got to hide it. You got to do it. But there's certain things that they're going to practice how many times? 2 days a week. You're doing it for a year,
right?
Which is going to be better. I mean, we overemphasize that part of it. And any good team and now you window dress it. You can hide different formations, different personnel. But guys know what it is and what you like to go to. But at the same time, that means you believe. But then when you do break them, you can hurt people.
Tempo was the word that Mike Elko used. He was telling that team to keep, because if Ole Miss can get that tempo, that's what they want. But if you can get them stopped,
well, you do. I mean, there's two things too. There's two thoughts. I mean, now, no huddle team gets a first down, their odds of scoring go up a little bit. When they get 2 first downs, it usually goes because they usually get you get it really running, and guys get disoriented, or not disoriented, but just doesn't happen. They're kind of demanding what goes on. But then you can also get 3 and outs, and you keep it the other way. I played no huddle teams before. Some teams, really good teams. One year we had 107 plays. They had 58.
Wow.
And they were a good team, but we were getting 3 and outs, and we were keeping those drives like we had last week. 15-play drives, 16-play drives, and it's hard for a guy to get in rhythm when he gets back on the field. That works 2 different ways. So if you get those stops, and I remember Coach Bowden said that one time. I remember he always said when he first went to no huddle back in the day with Charlie Ward, and he always told me the story that the defense was saying something. Well, Coach, you're always scoring too fast. When we got to be on the field too much. He said, well, buddy, if you go 3 and out, you ain't gonna be out there very long. That was an old Coach Bowdenism. You know what I mean? But it is true. I mean, you got to keep your rhythm. But there's a fine line. But if you can get 3 and outs, that can be very frustrating for a no huddle team because they're based on going fast and getting to that rhythm. So it can work 2 ways. So hopefully we can get some stops, get them off the field, and we can keep the ball and keep them frustrated and go score points.
And you want that defense of theirs tired. Right?
Oh, no doubt.
And
that's film. They have to be on there. So it works 2 ways, and that's what football is. It's a game of wills and who can execute and what you got to do.
Are they similar to Auburn in that you got to trust your eyes?
Oh, you do. Not quite as much shifting, stunning, the misdirection of things, but more spread, more open, more 3 and 4, even 4 receiver sets to one side and 5, empty sets. I think there'll be a little more of that, but they do all. I mean, they still have some similarities.
And contain will be important.
Oh yeah, leverage on everything. I don't care what you're doing. Leverage in the game of football is crucial. You can't be out leveraged and outflanked, as I say. In war, if you get outflanked, you get in trouble. In football, you get out leveraged, you get in trouble.
Right. Aggies, Ole Miss, 5:30 with our pregame show. 6:30 is the kickoff between the Aggies and the Rebels. Hope you'll join us all along the network. We will continue with the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show. It's presented by Capital Farm Credit. Stay with us. This is Aggie Football from Learfield IMG College. Absolute game-changing provider of electricity. They're giving Texans access to wholesale electricity with no markups, all for a membership of just $9.99 a month. We continue with the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show. It's presented by Capital Farm Credit. We're at Rudy's, 504 Harvey Road here in College Station, along with the head coach of the Fighting Texas Aggies. At practice, I believe it was Monday, and these kind of things always stand out to me, Coach. You take a break. This is a team that doesn't have individuals standing by themselves. They're in groups of 2, 3, or more. The only guy who was all by himself, wouldn't you know, by where your defensive line and defensive tackles work, there's Justin Matabike working on technique all by himself. I remember you using the word twitch with that defensive tackle. You think he's something special. He never seems to be satisfied and always working on his game.
He does. He has a lot of ability. He's learning to be a very consistent player now. He's getting better down in, down out, play in, play out, and understanding what he can accomplish and how to use the skills in which he has. He's learning every day.
I don't know if this is a fair or unfair. Defensive tackle at times is the most unsexy position in football, but if you don't have good defensive tackles, you can't win, can you?
It's a selfless position. Taking on double teams, 2 blockers at a time so other guys can be free and make plays. But then there's certain styles of guys that allow you to have enough athleticism that can, create the inside pass rushes. I say the Aaron Donalds of the world. And Justin can be in that form and fashion because he has enough twitch and power inside to do that. Other guys are run stoppers, take it on. But you have to be a selfless player because you got to hold gaps, you got to hold space. You can't get moved because there's an offense. We thrive on space. Defense doesn't. They want to condense it. We want to expand it on offense. It goes both ways. And those guys, they're at that position where guys are coming from the right, left, double teams. It's a whole different game in there.
And you are good when you get that double team.
Oh, no doubt.
Team, right? And he's going to get that, isn't he?
There's certain schemes that do it no matter what, but you got to be able to hold the double team. And then the key is not force them to have 2 blockers. So if they have to leave the 2 and like sometimes when you're in a double team, what you do, you try to create the movement and create movement with that guy and then slide off on the next guy. But if you can hold that point, they say, hold that space where he can't move me and they got to leave 2, then somebody's free.
If he's doing his job and Bobby Brown is doing his job, then Buddy Johnson and Anthony Hines get to do their job.
Oh, there's no doubt, and right? they get to do it with fun. They ain't having guys come on top of them. And then it's just vice versa the other way. When they don't hold guys off, it's miserable because you can tell a linebacker all day when you're getting 300-pound, 20-pound guards that get on 240-pound guys. There's weight classes in boxing for a reason. The big guys on little guys. So when they don't do their job, then those guys get engulfed. By the guys, and they can't make plays, and then it hurts us both ways.
One final segment of the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show presented by Capital Farm Credit. We will come back, wrap this one up as we look forward to Saturday, the Aggies at Ole Miss. Stay with us. The Jimbo Fisher Radio Show presented by Capital Farm Credit rolls on from Rudy's, 504 Harvey Road here in College Station. This is Aggie football from Learfield IMG College. Copyrighted broadcast is an exclusive presentation of Learfield IMG College under the broadcasting rights granted by Texas A&M University. Reuse of this presentation is prohibited without the express written consent of Texas A&M and Learfield IMG College. Announcers are provided by Learfield IMG College and Texas A&M University. As we wind up this edition of the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show presented by Capital Farm Credit, Coach hears this every week in his office, but I'm going to ask it again. What do you want to see on Saturday to get an Aggie victory over Ole Miss?
Well, you got to have I always talk about playing with three eyes. You got to have immediacy. We need to start fast, especially on the road. You got to play with great intensity, and you got to play with great intelligence. And you have to have those things consistently throughout the ball game, not in spurts. And it's got to start there. And then you got to have the consistency of how you're executing and the mindset of each and every play and understanding the situations. And take care of the football, create some turnovers, create some big plays, don't give up big plays, and what we're doing. And then, of course, third down red zone, like we always say. But it's the mindset when you go on the road. You got to go there knowing that, nothing's going to be given. Everything's going to be trying to be taken away from you. You have to go with a mindset on the road in this league to compete your tail off and up and above and beyond and overcome the things you got to do, and that's what we need to do.
Those are the things you can control.
They are. Those are the
Correct?
things you control, your mindset, the way you think about things, the way you approach things, no matter what, you keep chopping, no matter what happens. Okay, so what, now what? All right, so what, now what? Here we go again. Let's do it again and get locked into what we have to do and not let, none of these are permanent issues. They're all temporary issues that we can fix with our mindset and to keep going to work each and every day.
Coach beat the hell out of Ole Miss on Saturday.
Thank you.
You bet. That is Jimbo Fisher, the head coach of the Fighting Texas Aggies. We want to remind you that our CHI St. Joseph pregame show comes your way at 5:30 on Saturday. The kick will be at 6:30. Dave Elmendorf, Will Johnson, and I, Kevin Menchow, will be there. He's our engineer. And I'd like to mention that tonight back in our Learfield IMG College studios, it is Seth Summer who was our producer this evening. Seth, thanks for joining us this evening. For the head coach of the Fighting Texas Aggies, Jimbo Fisher, I'm Andrew Monaco. Thank you all for being here at Rudy's. We'll see you again next Wednesday. Hopefully we'll be talking about a victory over Ole Miss. For Coach Fisher, I'm Andrew Monaco. For our entire crew, thanks for joining us on Facebook Live and all along the network. You have yourselves a great Wednesday, great rest of your week. Thanks and gig 'em. This is Aggie Football from Learfield IMG College.